Hello, fellow members of the Midnight Society. Welcome to a special episode of the Midnight Society where I'm going to be giving a quick, spoiler-free review of the second episode of the 2019 Are You Afraid of the Dark revival. The second episode is called Opening Night, and it picks up where the first episode left off. As I mentioned in the previous episode of this review, the show does take a different format than the original series. So this is telling more like a cohesive story along all three episodes. It's just one long kind of story arc that's happening. Again, it is spoiler-free, but there will be a spoiler section at the end. So if you actually want to get into the meat and potatoes of the episode, stick around for that, because I can't say much without spoiling anything up front. One thing that I did want to mention that I should have mentioned the first episode, but it completely left my brain when I got to it, is the opening sequence. One of the most memorable things about the original series is the opening. It still creeps me out to this day. The use of practical effects, everything filmed in black and white with the creepy music, it's just the right amount of atmosphere. I feel like the one area that is not improved upon in the revival is the opening. Everything's digital now, and they still use some of the music and sound effects from the original, but it's definitely like a different take on it. It's changed up a bit. It's a remix. It's a club mix. It's not. But anyway, everything's it's a digital effect, and I guess it has a little bit of creepiness to it, but it's not anywhere close to the original. That being said, the actual episode itself, it's hard to... The one thing that's not going to change across any review of these three episodes is anything, really. The production value, I imagine they filmed all these at the same time, because it has that, we just made a movie and split it up into three episodes kind of a feel. But it's the same people involved, same actors, everything is the same. So nothing has really changed in that regard. The acting is still on point all across the board. Production value is still great. There's a lot of practical effects for scares, and then there's some digital added in there as well. And everything is just executed extremely well. If you're a purist, this may not be for you, because again, it does deviate from the original format of just kids sitting around telling a story, and then the episode is that story. This definitely involves the actual Midnight Society way more than the previous one, but it is still very, very entertaining. So as far as I'm concerned, this does get the approval of the Midnight Society. So now is the time. If you don't want it spoiled, I would take off, but if you don't care about spoilers or you've already seen it, hey, stick around. Let's get spoilery, shall we? I think they're gone. Spoiler time. So, as I mentioned before, when Rachel's story ends, the way the first episode ends, Rachel tells her story, and then the Carnival of Doom in her story shows up. So this episode deals with them actually going to the carnival to investigate. Initially, the Midnight Society is like, girl, nope, I don't know what kind of voodoo you're into, but we're out. And she's like, no, I've had this nightmare, and then I told this story. I have nothing to do with this. And then she says that there's a kid that went missing, and she thinks that the carnival, if I keep calling it circus, that's on me. For whatever reason, those two words are interchangeable for me. But she convinces them to go with her to the carnival and try to investigate this disappearance. And that's pretty much what this episode is. It is them at the carnival, experiencing the carnival, and kind of almost going through the beats of her story. And I don't know how I feel about that necessarily. I think it's executed well enough to where you don't necessarily feel like we're just rehashing her story from the first episode. But there's a lot of the same beats, like when they go into the tent and Top Hat shows up and it goes through his whole, it's all part of the show spiel. There are some really good scares in this, and then some that are not so good. There's a part where they all split up to kind of look for this kid that they actually see at the carnival, and so they go to find him. There's a sequence that takes place in like a bog type of an area with some zombies. These things, whew, girl, The creature makeup and effects on this rival the creature from The Tale of the Dead Man's Float, and I don't know if you remember that one, but that thing would haunt any kid's nightmare for the rest of their life, I feel. And these pretty much live up to that. There's also a sequence that takes place on a Ferris wheel that is where like the Ferris wheel like stops and the bolts start to unscrew from the seat that the kids are in. And I just never really felt the danger. Like if the seat had maybe like started to move, like, you know, give those like sudden like, oh, like it's dropping, I feel like maybe there would have been more in the realm of tension there, but it never actually does that. They just start to unscrew and then they screw back in. Because the whole thing is that the kids think they're all genuinely in danger, which I believe they actually are, but then everything corrects itself and makes it look like it was all part of the show. There are some creepy clowns that show up that are intensely menacing when you first see them, but then they start chasing these girls through the carnival on stilts, and look, I don't know if you've ever seen someone run on stilts. It looks silly. It's hard to be scared when something's running at you on stilts, but the look of the clowns is intense. If you have a clown phobia, maybe go get a snack at this point in the episode.
I want to be scared. I like to be scared. Why am I the only person that understands that concept?
Couple of nice homages to some older stuff. There's a brother, the older brother of one of the characters, who's a cop, who shows up. At one point, they call him to like report the missing kid and say, "Oh, we think he's at the carnival." And when they call him, his phone rings, and it's the music from the original Beverly Hills Cop. It's the Beverly Hills Cop theme, which I thought was funny. I think any kid watching it, like if you're an actual legitimate kid watching Nickelodeon, watching that, you're not going to get that reference at all. But I guess if you're the parent of a kid, you might be like, "That's for me. That's for me right there." And then Brandon Routh makes a weird cameo as the father of one of the kids. I was very surprised to see that. Especially since he still looks so young that he could probably be one of the kids. It was weird. So the first episode ended on kind of that weird cliffhanger, right? Boom, circus is real. This episode ends so messed up. They all experience these horrible things, and then they're all like trying to convince themselves, "Oh no, it's all part of the show." But then they realize that something is wrong here, and they're like, "We're going to come back tomorrow. And we're going to get to the bottom of this." And then there's this weird love plot between Rachel and Gavin, I think is his name. And they're like, "Oh, I'm going to walk you to school tomorrow." And then he doesn't show up. His dad shows up at the house saying, "Hey, I haven't seen Gavin. Maybe he went to school early." And then she gets all flipped out. And her mom's like, "Oh, you and Gavin?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, we went to the carnival and now he's gone." And she's like, "What carnival?" And she's like, "Are you kidding? You drove us." And she's like, "I drove you?" And so basically everything from her original story is playing out in real time. Like nobody remembers going to this carnival. And then she goes to school. All the other members of the Midnight Society have also forgotten. And then the carnival is now gone. So Gavin has gone missing. This other kid's gone missing. Nobody remembers it. And the carnival's gone. She is understandably flipped out. But then she gets this moment of resolve at the end. And she's like, "I'm going to end this." And that's where it ends. And you're like, ooh, I'm looking forward to the finale of this one. It's really good. The one thing about this that I'm a little disappointed on, and not too bad, because I don't know if they're trying to hide it or not, but I'm very positive that, especially with the second episode in the bag, that Rachel she actually experienced the carnival before. Like the girl in her story was her. And she went there and she saw some stuff and then she escaped and everyone forgot. And so when the carnival comes back around, like Mr. Top Hat's like obsessed with her when she shows up. Like he has this weird like panic attack in his trailer. And he's like, "She's here, she's here, she's here." So there's some connection there. And I think it is that she escaped the carnival before and now the carnival wants her back. I'm not sure. But to me it seemed like they were trying to hide it, and it's pretty obvious. So maybe they weren't trying to hide it and I'm just dumb. That could also be a possibility. But anyway, looking forward to the finale. Want to know what you guys think. If you watch this, please let me know in the comments below. And yeah, till next time, are you afraid of the dark?
How many people do you think touch this in a day?
We have bigger issues than your germophobia right now, Graham.
I can freak out about multiple things at once. I can take multiple issues!
Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and a share. It really goes a long way to helping us out. Maybe also consider subscribing and clicking that bell icon to be notified when more Midnight Society episodes go up. Thanks, everyone.